Welcome to the Edge of Success podcast. I'm here today with Neil Lathangue. Neil's the president and North American and managing director of Pro RFPF, which is a facilities maintenance collaborative working with property managers, facility managers, and their asset managers in North America. And Neil is based in Toronto, Canada. So, Neil, it's great to have you with us today. I'm glad you can take some time to be with us.
Thank you, Dave. I look forward to our session.
Oh, great. I always like to start a little bit with just learning about you, your background, how you got in the industry that you're currently working in.
Certainly. So I started managing assets, multi-residential, industrial, kind of a diverse portfolio. Did that for years, did a little bit of project management work on the development of nursing homes and retirement homes. And then along the way, I got approached by two private equity out of Boston, Massachusetts. One is called Brown Brothers Harriman, old private bank in America. The other is Washington and Congress, LLC. Frankly, they were doing an American roll-up of a brand called Omni Services. So they had purchased the receivables and cash for a company that was bankruptcy in Canada. So an acquired company with $50 million in Canada, they basically purchased the company, and at Omni Services Corp was launched, rebranded, and in conjunction with Facility Services, the private $400 a year in rent, and they had offered me the option to join as president with about 100 employees. And really the goal is to do a complete and take and shore up the fine company, reposition the predecessor of that bankruptcy stigma and so that was the goal, to stabilize and really create that phase security and stability, which is really important looking at buying or selling. And so we acquired facilities, $100 million over 4 years. And then in the first year, acquiring approached by a competitor that was Quebec-based, a French Canadian looking to their national. And my company, we were Atlantic to Pacific, every province. And so we were sell to that competitor. And in doing so, from one company, $1 million each, and the other, we now have $50 million company with about 7,000 bees coast to coast. That's in the maintenance and sort of the reader's version. I mean, they found the fiscal maintenance space.
All right. Sounds like you've had a pretty vast background there with a lot of different opportunities and transitions and all of that. And so that'll be interesting to kind of talk a little bit more about it. As you think about your own work and maybe past, present, and even potential future, if there was one thing you could point to, you said, this is really what I really enjoy. This is the thing that really just keeps me going and energizes me. What would that be?
Well, that's a great question. Property management, facility management is personal. So the property management or the facility, typically in the sense of multiple and property management, facility management, contract for services, or any other end that I can think of. So if you think of all the aspects of PM and F, it's continuously outsourcing partnership. So for me, it's developing relationships. It starts with what I learned about myself doing a turnaround. I inherited performing early on when Omni Facility Services, in effect, $60 million done. PE guys said, which one? Reorg the company, whatever changes, commitment to work I inherited. So my goal was identifying these and my continuously in terms of lead members of the sit down with and be very by need, and then take the B's them into A. And listen, did it work? Well, the transfer data would say it certainly worked by sticking with inherited some changes, but I made some material change, more of the executive and supported good, and we had a experience. So develop team, and then entrepreneurial. I enjoy that identifying and then transitioning monetization, commercializing idea, which really is how to really, what are your and what are the that will make you in that service offer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I find as I talk with different leaders, a lot of times just identifying those things, really what you love doing and kind of what your approach is. I mean, we all have our strengths and, frankly, we all have our weaknesses. And I usually say, hey, you need to focus about 80% of your time in your strengths. And then you need to mitigate those weaknesses by getting other people on your team that have strengths in those areas. And when you do that, things just begin to take off.
Exactly.
In every industry, there are some challenges. As you think about your particular industry, what would be some challenges you've either faced or currently facing, or things that just come along with your territory and say, this is one you have to constantly work at, you have to stay on top of, or whatever it might be. But what comes to mind as you think about challenges?
Yeah, there's several. Prioritize them, share them. So if you look at the world of facility management and facility maintenance, more on the facility maintenance stuff, it can be a very industry, a lot of turnover. So in particular, where you've got project management work or one-offs, one-shots, or project work, unless you're able to provide an hour and work and scope to your folks, they can be fairly trained. They may move on to opportunity provides them and their more income, greater satisfaction, etc. Labor pool, contracting and pool. That would, in our industry, number one cost is going to be labor. And so you've got really micro content. I've tried to leadership team. You can understand $1 that it costs. You get a sense of future value, potential exit with a multiple. You get a sense of $1 really cost you. So labor. Two, a current huge pendulum in the space. Things change with the pandemic, cleaning and maintenance, sanitizing. There was a lot of hype going on. Meaning, properties and spending extraordinary operating budget during the pandemic. Clean. And if it's clean, clean it again, right? And so that gutted operating budget everywhere around during the pandemic. And so that pendulum is back with the pandemic over, and budget owners normalized budgets to what they hemorrhaged years during the pandemic. You're seeing margins, incredible pressure, margins in certain aspects. And so labor pool, downward pressure, margins, and then if you want to try, you do got a great relationship with the client, and you're very open, transparent about what your costs can offset from the pressure on them. I would say those two things.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me in some ways. I mean, the labor particularly is one that, frankly, I don't care what line of work you're in. It's hard to get good people. Quite often I share, I think sometimes when you look for people, it's good to have real clarity about the kind, what you're looking for, not just their resume, but what kind of qualities, honesty, integrity, work ethic, basic things that sometimes we don't really think about, but they're really very critical anytime you're hiring people. And then the other thing I have found is a lot of people hire good people, but they sort of expect the people to sort of manage themselves and sort of develop themselves. And some people will, but really, if you want to get the full impact out of getting good people, you kind of need to lean in and really work at developing at least your key people so that they're working at an exceptional level. And I find a lot of leaders don't really do that. And I think it hurts them in the long run.
That's a great point. Boring. So you get the talent, and the station might be, let them figure it out. So I think you're right, coach and mentor.
Sometimes you can do it. I mean, depends on your role. I mean, sometimes I think actually companies would do really well to hire someone who would just work at helping develop the people within their organization. So those people, I like to use a baseball analogy. Every time they get up to the plate, they're going to hit a triple or a home run. They're not striking out because you just really worked at developing them. In addition to challenges, I find also there are usually some opportunities that are available in industries. As you think about your particular industry, now it could be a current opportunity you're considering or thinking about, or it could be a future opportunity that's on the horizon or coming up. Does anything kind of stick out for you there in terms of thinking about opportunities?
Sure. So the facility management, facility maintenance model in Canada in particular, based on a model that is several years ahead. And so what we're experiencing in the U.S. is this next we call integrated facility maintenance, or integrated facility, which means if you buy and if you're viewed by your client as offering value, having proximity to them as the client and to the market, and if you're viewed as what I call this capable, competent, credible, you take all of that, and once you're in the building, you've got a great record. So you will get the bid on other services. So once you go through the front door with, for example, if you're doing entrepreneurial, got that relation, and you prove and the market, or if you've got or through acquisition, you can approach. Let us take a look at more of your. We can help you management, or we can help of certain lands, and in particular, what you in facility management maintenance is the real development soft facility maintenance service versus hard. Soft facility services does not require a license, does not require a degree certified engineering, where hard service is the opposite. License there. So the opportunity, and why is that? Oh, it's a compression. They're spending it creatively, it strengthens things and streamlines the process, and they've vendors are dealing with, which in their world, because again, it's so interpersonal of all these, they can minimize that. They're happy to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So, no, as you have been, obviously you've done a lot of things in your career, but I find you kind of learn some things along the way. I'd say you learn some things not to do, and you learn some things to do. If you, let's say you had a younger leader that you were seeking to develop and help become a better leader, is there any, I'll call it just advice or insight that you might give? Hey, these are some things you want to kind of stay clear of. These are some things you want to lean in and you want to do more of.
Sure, let's pare that down a little. So let's pick, is it an executive, a CEO, or a CEO, or manager? What kind of might we be talking about? And I could explain why.
Yeah, I think more probably a CEO, maybe a COO, but the idea is someone who has a sizable responsibility and has capacity and ability, but maybe just less experience.
Yeah, happy to share that. And this is an important one, and I can say that for me, it worked very well personally. How do I know that? Well, the data and the transaction and the different financial events that took place said, yeah, it was the right strategy. So one of the things that I believe in strongly when as you're the new hire and you're going in, the CEO or the president or the COO needs to get a credibility from everyone on the team. You can't walk in and assume that the business should. You need to invest with the team. You need to vet on the operation. Put in the long hours, get to know the business, get to know the account, get to know the department, the sales and marketing, environment, safety, quality. So if you think about it, don't do any of them, but you come in as the lead, I think you have less. I think if you roll up and put in the long and get to know you and ask them, how do they do it? Your barriers. I think what you earn, the credibility, influence, and you know, or the president, corner office, and it's the titles are relevant. It's the influence that motivate to perform really, really well. And now it's time sensitive. I think if you're new, you have clock starts running. And so if you, for example, which let's say $1 million a year and negative, which happened to there are certain things within that they identify financially and so I have of days, months to make a act on culture. You don't get ahead and you don't make changes in culture in a very that CEO president very well gets into the culture and lose the moment being new and changes and learning there. You're the new individual. Every question you can say, listen, I don't know the company, I don't know the market like you do, industry like you. Help me under. And so if I'm coaching a person, obviously be as adaptable as and learn as much about the company and learn what I call of every organization, sales. So spend time to know those specifically. If you do, you'll get a out, you'll grow your influence. If you don't, I think of being challenged, or do you really not around here? You know the blind company, or are you simply tell you blind spots are, which may or may not.
Yeah, that makes good sense. I would almost describe that as a leader. I think one of the keys, particularly if you're brought in from the outside, there's challenges if you're already within because people know you with one relationship and then your relationship changes depending on your role. But if you're brought in from the outside, I mean, I would use the phrase buy-in. They need to buy into you. And the way you get buy-in is getting their input, seeking their insights. I mean, they're people that I'll call them in the trenches, and they have a lot to offer. But sadly, a lot of leaders don't take the time. They come in with the idea of, I got this, I know what I'm doing. And they alienate people right from themselves right from the beginning, which I think is sad. But I see it happen a lot.
Good point. Yeah.
So one last question here I'd like to ask you is, as you think back upon your own life, and as I've looked at my life and my career, this is one thing that has kind of stuck out for me that I think has really helped me be successful in life. If you have one that you would like to share with people, that'd be great. I'm sure they would benefit from that.
I'll try and simplify as much as possible. I remember being on a commuter train heading to Toronto meetings, and I was a few hours away. Sat down who was second or third business program university. You have kids. Yeah, I've gone to school. Piece of advice, and I think it's about adaptable. If you're rigid and you struggle, handle change and modify and adapt. I think you're likely to succeed. If you're curious about the environment, you find something that you're in really like, you engage yourself in. I think that, but without doubt, adaptability. That can adapt.
Well, and I think particularly in today's culture, because things are changing so rapidly, it's, what you did even a year ago, it can be very different in the way you would approach it today. So, well, listen, Neil, I've really enjoyed chatting with you. If people wanted to know more about you, about your company, maybe how they could connect with you, what would be the best way for them to be able to connect with you?
Certainly on LinkedIn. So the Neil Lathangue, alternatively, Neil at PRORFP.com.
All right. Well, listen, thanks so much for being my guest today on the Edge of Success podcast. And I appreciate your insights and you sharing with others. I'm sure they'll benefit a great deal from what you've been able to share.
Thank you, David.